Hello. If you're ready to read, then you're in the right place, because I am ready to read to you. I have a couple of poems by Shel Silverstein picked out today, and a picture book by Jan Brett. So let's get right into it. We'll start with the poems from Shel Silverstein in the book Falling Up. Now, anyone who's familiar with Shel Silverstein's poems knows that he does write some very silly poems. He also writes some very thoughtful ones as well. And I want to share some of those with you. They're a little silly, but I want you to think about what they are trying to really say. I want to start with this shorter one. 3 stings. George got stung by a bee and said, "I wouldn't have got stung if I stayed in bed." Fred got stung and we heard him roar, "What am I being punished for?" Lou got stung and we heard him say, "I learned something about bees today." Think about that one. This next one is called The Bear, the Fire, and the Snow. No pictures for this one, but I do have a visitor who will be joining us for this. There you go. Comfy up there? Okay. The Bear, the Fire, and the Snow. "I live in fear of the snow," said the bear. "Whenever it's here, be sure I'll be there. Oh, the pain and the cold, when one's bearish and old. I live in fear of the snow." "I live in fear of the fire," said the snow. "Whenever it comes, and it's time I must go, with its yellow-lick flames leaping higher and higher. I live in fear of the fire." "I live in fear of the river," said the fire. "It can drown all my flames any time it desires, and the thought of the wet makes me sputter and shiver. I live in fear of the river." "I live in fear of the bear," said the river. "It can lap me right up, don't you know?" While a mile away you can hear the bear say, "I live in fear of the snow." We move on to a story by Jan Brett. This is called Berlioz the Bear. The performers must get to the ball. Berlioz leads one and all. But their wagon and load are stuck in the road, and the mule has decided to stall. Zum, zum, bzz, zum, zum, bzz. Berlioz had been practicing for weeks, and now, just when the orchestra was going to play in the village square for a gala ball, a strange buzz was coming from his double bass. "Why now?" Berlioz said to himself. The musicians arrived with their instruments. As Berlioz watched them climb aboard the bandwagon, all he could think about was his buzzing bass. What if his bass buzzed during the ball? What if the dancers stopped dancing and laughed at him? Zum zum bzzz, zum bzzz, he imagined. What I like about Jan Brett's books, by the way, is that on the sides there's always something extra going on. Here we've got some animals preparing for this ball. The Berlioz Orchestra. Berlioz picked up the reins and clucked to the mule. Off they went down the road. He was so worried that he didn't see a hole in the road ahead. Suddenly, the wagon lurched to a stop. The front wheel was stuck in the hole. The mule took one look back, sat down, and yawned. "Oh dear," said Berlioz, as he tried to get the mule to stand up and pull the bandwagon out of the hole. "What can we do? We'll be late for the ball."
"I'll help you," said a rooster who was passing by on his way to the ball. "I'll just tug on the rope and pull you out," he bragged.
The rooster pulled and pulled, but the mule stayed put. A tabby, who had been watching from the top of the fence, spoke up smugly. "This isn't the job for a featherweight," he purred. "I'll do it for you." And he took hold of the rope and pulled, but the mule wouldn't move. "Oh my," said Berlioz. "At this rate, we'll never get to the ball on time. Everyone put on your concert tailcoats so we'll be ready to start as soon as we get there." Just then, a schnauzer came trotting over the hill. He took one look at the cat and sniffed.
"A furball like you can't pull a bandwagon. Here, let me have that rope."
He panted and pulled, but the wagon stayed in the hole. Berlioz handed out the music. "Everyone take out your instruments. We'll start tuning up here." Along came a prancing billy goat. He looked at the schnauzer and snorted.
"Move over, Squirt, and let me do it. I'll have this wagon out in no time."
The billy goat strained forward, but to his surprise, he got nowhere. Berlioz checked his pocket watch. There wasn't much time left. He was about to give up when he heard a new voice. "Allow me," said a plow horse coming across the field. "This will be easy. I spend my days pulling." But even the plow horse couldn't move the mule. It looks like he's getting some help from the rest of the animals too, and it still won't move. Berlioz tugged at his ears. It was almost time for the ball to begin. He looked around and saw a large ox lumbering toward them. "Everyone tune up! Here comes someone who can pull us out."
"You're saved!" roared the ox. "This poor plow horse means well, but only I am strong enough to pull a bandwagon full of musicians."
He twisted the rope around his horns and gave a mighty tug. The animals held their breaths, but the mule wouldn't budge. The clock on the tower started to chime 8 o'clock. "Oh no!" Berlioz shouted. In desperation, he pulled his bow across the strings, and to his dismay he heard zum zum bzz bzz. All the musicians turned to look at the buzzing double bass. Out of the base shot a very angry bee. It had been disturbed once too often. The first thing it saw as it flew out of the base was the hindquarters of the mule. Bzzz. With one giant sting, the bee made the mule jump to his feet and pull the bandwagon of musicians out of the hole, down the road, and into the village square before the bells had stopped chiming. The audience roared. "What an entrance!" they cried, and the orchestra, already dressed and tuned, began to play. Zum, 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 zum. It was hard to say who had more fun at the ball, the musicians or the dancers. Berlioz had never played better. "Encore, Berlioz, encore!" Berlioz came forward. "Thank you all, and this evening I would like to dedicate our encore to the buzzing bee." And what is their encore? The end. Oh, careful there, buddy. Well, thanks for listening. I will see you next time.